Welcome back to Agri SA's Congress 2020. We turn our attention now to natural resources, where we speak to Janse Rabie, Head of the Centre of Excellence Natural Resources. Welcome, Janse.
Hello, Lindy. Nice to be here.
Janse, water has very much been at the forefront of the work that Agri SA has been doing. What are some of the lowlights and the highlights in the policy space over the last few years?
Yes, 2020 was certainly the best of times and the worst of times as far as natural resource management, in particular water, is concerned. It started in 2019 with our Congress, at which we had the then newly appointed Minister of Human Settlements, Water and Sanitation, Mr. Lindiwe Sisulu, as a guest speaker. Prior to that, Agri SA's Natural Resources Centre of Excellence, and particularly our water unit, went through a lengthy process of determining and formulating a nationally determined Agri SA mandate on our policy position on water. That was crucial for Agri SA and certainly a breakthrough moment as far as my work is concerned. It opened up new avenues and new doors to us for government and in a surprising way. Up to then, I think people, and the tendency is that people speak about water and water-related issues and agricultural water in specific, in broad terms. Knowing where your colours are placed and nailing your colours to the mast as far as these things are concerned is crucial in engaging with everybody, not only with government. But from my point of view, I think that certainly opened so many doors for us with government, which is one of the crucial role players when it comes to water and water management in South Africa as such. On the policy space in particular, things that have been interesting that have been developing was, for instance, the creation and formulation in November last year of a National Water and Sanitation Master Plan, which was a crucial policy document from government's side on what government intends for water and specifically agricultural water included in that, how that should be managed and how government is going to be looking after that. We've had numerous statements and media appearances by the Minister of Water and Sanitation about instances for issues such as, for instance, water use licensing and the shortened time periods that have been directed by the Minister of Water and Sanitation on how long water use license applications should take and the expedited way of doing that. We've had a very surprising year as far as raw water tariff consultations are concerned. I might speak a little bit more about that, but annually, Agri SA, for one of our big calendar days, is the national and sector-specific raw water tariff consultations, where farmers hear what the increases are going to be as far as their water prices are concerned, and what the cost is going to be, which is an enormous input, obviously, factor for irrigation, agriculture, and agriculture in general. On that, we've had a surprising year, and I mention that specifically because it is in the context of COVID very important that we've had increases that have been almost negligible. So small have been the increases, and we know that that is a COVID measure, but it's been a fundamental development for us and one that we're quite proud of because government took our views into account in this regard, making sure that agriculture remains viable and cost efficient and obviously the role that water plays in that. So we've had a very busy year. What has also been interesting from our point of view is that we, unlike any other organization, I think, in the entire country, I don't think any other business is in the same position as what Agri SA is. We have quarterly meetings with the Department of Water and Sanitation, which nobody else is afforded the opportunity to do. So we've just completed one a couple of weeks ago where all our provincial affiliates join in a virtual meeting with the top officials of the Department of Water and Sanitation to talk about topical issues affecting farmers. That has been something that has never been achieved, I think, anywhere in any sector in South Africa. Other thing that I think is very important is that we're trying to formulate a consolidated voice for agriculture as far as agricultural water is concerned in the country as a whole. So also in a new development, we're taking along our colleagues in other organized agricultural players and organizations, such as AFASA, NAFU, TLU South Africa, and SAI. And we've had our interactions with them to formulate and discuss those issues in agricultural water in particular, where we see eye to eye, and where we can take issues of mutual concern and benefit to, for instance, the top of government in the minister and the presidency. So for me, COVID obviously took us by surprise in March this year, but if I could have built on the momentum that we had between October last year and the beginning of this part of the year, I'd have loved to have seen what we could have done. Not that we're doing not that anything is stopped or is ceasing to, or not going forward. I think those things are all happening and they're all very positive. And those are the things that are probably the highlights of the year. On a low light level, I think one thing that has been very concerning for us has been the findings of corruption within the Department of Water and Sanitation. This is a prevailing cancer in our society, but I think from what we see in, for instance, the Zondo Commission and what we read in the media and in the newspapers, I think corruption in South Africa, and particularly on this vital resource and element in agriculture at least, we're very concerned about the allegations and the movements to curb corruption in this country. It's a positive development, obviously, that we see things happening. It's not being hidden or shied away from, but the extent of that is shocking.
Janse, despite COVID-19, your portfolio has had a particularly busy year. To what do you attribute the Natural Resources Centre of Excellence eminence in the media?
Yes, Lindy, I think that's an important question. Agri SA is an organisation that's made out of farmers and in which the farmer's voice is very prominent. Natural Resources Centre of Excellence has been particularly fortunate in having a very strong committee under the chairmanship of Wayman Kritzinger and with the vice chairmanship of Willem Symington and additional member Courtney Swart. I'm also very particularly fortunate to be supported by someone like Gregory Smith, who works within our water unit. And I think the guidance under all these gentlemen, as well as the support that we have from Agri SA generally, in our management, our CEOs, our support people, I think is wonderful, and one of the things that I think attributes to those successes that we've had in the last 12 months. As I've mentioned also, I think a very clear and strong and consistent message and policy position is one of the most important things that organisations such as ours can have, and makes us credible and a reliable partner when speaking to all comers, whether it's government, whether it's our farmers, whether it's other organisations, whoever it might be. I think that is it's a team effort altogether, and I think something that we've been particularly fortunate in having within the Natural Resources Centre of Excellence.
Let's talk about water rights. It's a very contentious issue in South Africa. What are Agri SA's views regarding water rights?
Yes. If it wasn't for the fact that the expropriation of land without compensation was on the front page of all our newspapers, I think water would have been that, and to an extent it's done so in any case. The Department of Water and Sanitation has for a long time asserted correctly that agriculture is the largest user of water, and that there's a transformation imperative that is attached not only to land, but that water runs with it. Now, from a policy point of view, Agri SA's stands squarely behind the correct implementation and interpretation of the National Water Act. It's a law-based approach. It's the correct way of approaching water in this country. And where the Water Act says that all water belongs to all the people in South Africa, that doesn't mean that government owns water. And that's something that person needs to be very careful of, because government has, and in recent times, made the assertion that they own water, and that if they want to achieve transformation, they can use water also as a tool to expedite transformation. Now, that has its own political ramifications and implications as such. One of the permutations of this policy position of government was a circular that was issued by the Department of Water and Sanitation, saying that water use transfers, which is a provision and a mechanism specifically provided for in terms of our National Water Act, that has been incorrectly applied and interpreted by that very Department of Water and Sanitation for the last 18 years. So in a circular issued by the Department of Water and Sanitation, the department took a 180-degree turnaround and said that water use entitlements cannot be transferred from one person to another and from one property to another without it first being surrendered to the Department of Water and Sanitation for them to allocate as they deemed fit. The matter went to court in October last year, and it went to Pretoria High Court with a full bench of that court, and the decision went against us. And a very surprising decision at our take of it, at least. The court was at pains to say that, yes, water can be transferred, yes or no, there are arguments both ways, as long as there's not a commercial underpinning, or there's not a commercial changing of money, I suppose, when it comes to that transfer of water use entitlements. And that is enormously important and problematic for the agricultural sector, is that a court gives a view on something that is half-baked, in our view. And I say that with respect, I'm a lawyer myself. And we've had to take this matter on deciding internally whether we'll take it on appeal. And the decision was made earlier this year that the matter will be taken on appeal, and that Agri SA will have to support the litigating parties in this, in taking the matter to Bloemfontein at this appeal court for a determination on the correct interpretation of the ability to transfer water use entitlements from one property to another and from one person to another. Just to contextualize the issue, say, as I said, water use entitlements are specifically provided for in terms of the National Water Act. It's a very legally clear and sound position, the way that it's been interpreted until now. If a farmer, for instance, has water use entitlements and he can't use it, the Act allows for the possibility of that water, at least on a temporary basis or on a permanent basis in very limited cases, to be transferred to another property to be used efficiently. And that's what it's about. It's efficient uses of water that is at stake in this, as far as the interpretation of Section 25 of the National Water Act is concerned. Government has taken a very strong political policy position on that, which we feel is incorrect. That takes away the ability to use water beneficially during a season, for instance, in that case where that water might not have been used by a farmer for whatever the reason might be. And that's something that we are very careful of, in making sure that the Water Act is applied the way it should be, and that it's not done for political purposes to achieve transformation objectives in a misplaced way in our manner, or in this case in particular. Interestingly on that is that obviously we are very keen on maintaining good relationships and sound relationships with government. We need to keep on speaking with them. And we've kept government abreast of all these developments as far as the court action is concerned. And I'm happy to say we haven't burnt bridges so far, at least as far as taking matters to court and taking such a radical step, I suppose, in approaching the Supreme Court of Appeal through the financial assistance that Agri SA is going to be providing.
So you speak now about the good relationship you have with government, and it's clear stemming from the fact that you have such regular consultations with them. What are some of the positives that have come out of those consultations? What has Agri SA been able to achieve through that?
Yes, I think, as I've mentioned, we have these quarterly engagements in which we have direct access, or farmers through their provincial organisations have direct access to the Department of Water and Sanitation on issues such as, for instance, double billing or incorrect billing of water uses by the Department of Water and Sanitation. Another major development and major implication of having that open relationship with the department is the fact that as we go every year to the department to engage with them on raw water tariff consultations and negotiations, it's vitally important that government understands where agriculture is coming from, that it's acting in good faith, that it's looking after the interests of feeding the nation, and making sure that we have our food sustainability and viability as far as a sound commercial agricultural sector is concerned. You can't keep on fighting with government. It's simply not the way to do it. You need to have you need to have a room within a relationship to fight when it's necessary to fight, but you also need to know when you have to assist government in fulfilling its obligation, its mandate. As I said, government is the custodian of water resources. They don't own it. Water belongs to all of us, and we need to ensure that government is capacitated, strong, and supported where necessary by organisations such as agriculture and Agri SA in particular, to make sure that water resource management in the country is actually done as soundly and good as what it could be done.
So speaking about picking your battles carefully, how is Agri SA faring in terms of the tug of war for water between mining and agricultural sectors? Yes,
indeed. I think that competition for resources is one that's as old as at least the northern parts of the country, but as old as South Africa is, and as far as the history of the country is concerned. Mining has played an enormous role. Agriculture is also one of those pillars of South African society and the history of this country and the fabric of it. Now, the competition for water resources is a vitally important one for agriculture. We use the most of that water, but it's very important that it's properly contextualized. Water, we're one of the 30 driest countries in the world, for one. We're the only country in Africa that is able, with its limited water resources, to feed its population. the social stability that that creates and causes, and the economic foundation that that lays for whatever happens in South Africa is vital. When statements are made about agricultural water, the way that it's being used, it needs to be remembered that agriculture gets what remains. So after you and I have taken our water for our domestic and industrial business purposes, when mines have taken their water, done with the water what they wanted to do, including the pollution that is part and parcel of mining activities, only then does agriculture get what remains. So, as Mike Miller often says, is agriculture doesn't take the lion's share of water, it gets the hyena's share of water. And that situation, as far as mining is concerned, is something that has been problematic for agriculture, particularly because of the competition of the resource, but also the way that the impacts that mining has for agricultural and for the environment as such. The pollution concerns are clear. The other issues that are very important and concerning for us is that on a natural resources base altogether, as far as environmental authorizations is concerned, the playing field is simply not level. Mining has a special dispensation in terms of our environmental laws, which is something that Agri SA is not particularly happy with. Mining does seem to want to take upon itself the entitlement to be able to mine wherever you want to mine, in whatever manner you want to mine, and that is something that needs to be resisted. Mining has an enormously powerful lobbying group and organisation in the Minerals Council of South Africa, which Agri SA has a memorandum of understanding with, and we talk with them regularly. But we need to make sure that mining is actually kept in check as much as possible, especially when it comes to our high-value agricultural land. And that is something that we've had our altercations, I suppose, with mining within organisations such as NEDLAC and BUSA on legislative and policy developments, and something that we need to make sure that we're extra vigilant on as far as ensuring agriculture's position against mining in particular. One can't always go to court. There are loads of mining applications. Minister Mantashe has said that if he had his way, he'd like to see South Africa as a whole look as if it was a building site or a mining site. And that is simply not a sound or a reasonable position to take. Having said that, you can't keep on taking mining to court. So what Agri SA has done, except for the regular interactions we've had with the Minerals Council and through various other efforts, we've also assisted our farmers with being able to ask the correct questions, positioning themselves correctly when the processes start with respect to mining adjacent to agricultural areas. One has to look at mining very carefully. Once it starts and once it develops, or a mine starts and a mine development actually takes place in your backyard, it's very difficult to stop that. Asking the right questions at the right time, exerting the pressure on shareholders of mining companies, that is often the way to go, and making sure that mining actually is done responsibly. We're not going to wish mining away. It's simply not possible, and it's certainly not desirable for the country. But we need to make sure that agriculture maintains its position and stands firm when it comes to untoward mining activities that take place.
So if we look at water quality in South Africa, what is the state of the level of pollution that we're looking at from mines and from raw sewage and other issues that farmers face with water quality?
Lindy, that's a very interesting question, because very often you hear this statement made and you see things on social media and you see things on YouTube about the deplorable state of our water resources, and that is often true. But there's no point in jumping up and down about pollution and activities polluting water if you can't verify it through the correct verification, measurement, laboratory analysis, and then taking action on the basis of the data. Agri SA has been very fortunate in our provincial affiliate Agri Northern Cape, as well as one of our commodity members or commodity organisation members in Raisins, South Africa, to have started an initiative called Tariff Watch along the lower Orange River, where we're putting up the money to test the water pollution and water quality levels of the lower Orange River. It's actually being extended. We're going to testing water by an accredited laboratory up into the lower reaches of the Vaal River, where it enters into the Orange River. And the reason why this is so vitally important is you have verifiable, trusted, accredited, laboratory analysed water results that a person can take to government, and you can take to all role players, which is the initiative that Tariff Watch is all about, is taking those analyses and presenting it to government, presenting it to the Department of Water and Sanitation, to the Departments of Health, to the municipalities, to the hospitals, and saying, this is what we find. Could you put up your version, and could you counter that, or is this what we have to deal with in South Africa as far as our water resources are concerned? That makes it a far greater and far more inclusive process than opposed to simply stating our water is polluted. Municipalities or whoever the polluter is, or the mining company, or whatever it is that a person feels that is the source of pollution. That's simply making a bold statement saying that you're polluting, do something about it. You need the information, and I think that is something that is unique that Agri SA offers, that no other organisation, commercial mining, does. Agriculture has certainly taken the forefront on this in assisting government, and again, this is assisting government. The requirement to look after our water resources is something that falls squarely with National Department of Water and Sanitation. We know that they don't have the capacity to measure and look at water quality the way that we want it to do. But we've taken that up upon ourselves to make sure that we test that water and that we can assist, not being confrontational, not fighting with everybody only, but making sure that we take everybody with us in making sure that the water issues and the pollution issues that we're all aware of get addressed in the proper manner.
Okay. Thank you, Janse. I think it's a very important issue to state there, is to always separate fact from hearsay, and that's not just true with water, it's true with a lot of things, especially when it comes to farming.
Mm-hmm.
Stay tuned for further discussions during the Agri SA Congress 2020.